Hi guys, it's Blackie and welcome back to my channel. Okay, today we're going to talk about how to test new gear. Now that you would think would be self-explanatory, but I know for a fact, and I've been guilty of it too, I'm not calling no names here, but a lot of people will buy a new piece of gear and they'll run straight out to camp with it and they never tested it before they got out there to go camping. And that's when problems can pop up that you didn't anticipate. Now for something simple like a canteen cup set, that's pretty self-explanatory. As long as it works, it comes apart, etc. Okay. But let's talk about a canteen for a second. Does it leak? Not, I fill it up and do that and it didn't drip. If I fill it up and I turn it sideways and leave it for an hour, does it leak? Where you got such a slow little seep, so that when it's laying in a pack, or you left it laying on your sleeping bag when you took a drink and sat it down in camp and went off to do something and it fell over on the camp, will it leak? How do we find this out? Real simple. Any type of new piece of gear that I'm going to try out, I'm always going to test it at home to begin with. And the first thing I did with this canteen after I got it home was clean it very thoroughly. And then I filled it up about all the way to the top. I left it overnight to sterilize it. And then I came back and I filled it up about halfway. Why halfway? Full all the way to the top, you can have a little bit of a vacuum when it goes to tip. And it may not, but I want a little air in it. So I put it about 3/4 way up. And I laid it on its side and I put a paper towel under it. And I left it overnight. If I'd came out the next day and there was a wet spot on that paper towel, I know there's a slow seep leak, that this seal isn't doing well. But I was lucky, it didn't leak in any way. And so therefore this was fine. Now how about a cook set? Well, new cook sets can have their own new attributes to them. For example, you may have went from you've always had stainless and you've gone to titanium or whatever. It may burn easier, it may scorch easier, it may whatever, and the best way to test is to test it at home. If I'm going to be using, let's say, a stove of some kind, like a Trangia or an MSR stove or whatever, I'm going to take my new pot and my stove that I've had for a long time, and I'm going to test them together to find out, can I cook in it? Obviously it's going to boil, but can I heat a stew or something on it without burning it? And that sounds, oh Blackie, that's so, trust me. How many of you started out with an old Boy Scout aluminum cook set? Remember how that thing would scorch anything? You'd have just barely any heat under it. And it would take forever to heat something up. And yet it went from almost warm to burnt like that, because that super thin aluminum transferred way too much heat too fast. So you had to be really heat conscious with it. Otherwise, you burned everything. You could boil water in it pretty easy, but besides that, you had to be very, very heat conscious with it. But you didn't get that unless you practiced with it and figured it out. And when you're out in the middle of whatever and you brought just enough food to get you through and you done burnt 4 meals, trust me, you'll practice at home. You'll be mad at it and you'll throw it away. But maybe it's not the new cook pot's fault. Maybe it's the material heats up faster or holds heat better or whatever. And so therefore I always test new gear at home with the device I'm going to be using at camp. So if this is going to be used on a fire, hey, I can build a fire in the barbecue grill, right? Try it for lunch. I'll heat up, chow, I'll do whatever. And I'll use that new piece of cook kit to cook my lunch for the next week. I will, by the end of that week, have a good working knowledge of how it's going to react to heat, to whatever. Is it easy to clean? When you do squirt something on it, can you just not get it off of it? All of those little things. I want to know this at home, so that when I'm in the field, I'm better prepared, see. How about what I just got? My new down top quilt. Well, I'm going to be testing it. And where am I going to be testing it? right here in the redneck camper in my backyard. I'm going to slide that single mattress I have that I put in here to turn into a camper. And one night at about 10 or 11 when it's time to go to bed, I'll come out here and climb in it and climb into my new down top quilt as the thing. And I'll be wearing adequate clothes for the temperatures when it's going to be down in the low 30s, which I've got some days coming up that'll be down in that kind of temperature. And I'll try it out. Why do it that way? Well, the rest of the system is field tested and I know how it's going to react. That's my one wind hammock, my one wind underquilt. I know with my one wind underquilt, 2 underquilts on it, I can go down to 6 degrees and not be cold from below. But I had this big, huge sleeping bag, that mountain bag on top of me in that encounter, and I never got cold. But like I talked about, that big weight and bulk. So the bottom half of the hammock, that's already rock solid. I know how far down I can go on it. This is the new piece because it is so light and everything, and it's rated down to 0 and -20. Okay, so how will it do? I'll start it out at 30 and see what I can, a little bit below 30, 32, high 20s, and try it out. I'll try it out around the low 30s, upper 20s, which I've got some coming in the next week, and see how it performs then. If I do get cold, all I gotta do is walk in the house. And then I need to evaluate, okay, was it its fault or was I wearing inadequate clothing for me? See? Because I'm not gonna get in this thing butt naked. What layers am I wearing on me? So that in February when I go up and camp on that mountain and it's going to be down in the low teens, I know what I've got to be prepared and what I've got to do to make this function and do the job, right? It's about eliminating all the negative possibilities, one step at a time. What is the biggest change? The top quilt. Everything else is rock solid. Okay, so I want to revisit. I'll be wearing the layers I was wearing. I'll be wearing the gear I had. Everything will be the same except this top quilt, down to those low teens. Does it work? Do I get cold? Do I need a little bit more? Do I need something over the top of it? Is it perfectly adequate? Is it too much? You know, all of the above. I overdid it at a camp out where it was going to be 28, and I overdid it. And I woke up burning up and breaking a sweat, and I had to vent. You know, I went too far. I want to be comfortable, but not overheated, because if I go to sweating, that's bad. Remember, I don't want to get up and be damp. I want to keep my clothes bone dry, so I want to be comfortable, just a touch cool. Just enough where you're guaranteed you're not going to sweat. That's where I want to be. I do not want to be too hot or too cold. Okay. How about a big old cook pot or something like a bush pot or something? Again, try it at home. How about a new haversack? Day hikes and stuff around camp, around the house. If I'm going to be going and me and the kids are going to be going to the lake or whatever, take it. Load it up. Does it dig into your neck? Is the strap too wide? Is it difficult to get into? Whatever. By trial and error, I'll figure it out. But I'm going to test it before I take it to the field, and I have to count on it, especially any survival gear. So that knife that I just got, man, everybody's talking about this knife. It's the greatest knife in the world, and I really want to try it. I'm going to get it at the house. I've got a big old pan. I'm going to put it in my lap, and I'm going to sit there while watching TV, and I'm going to sit and whittle with it and practice and see how I like it. Does it rub hot spots on my hand? Does it cramp my hand when I try to do certain things? Is it hard to cut with? Does it sharpen easily? Does it dull easily? All of the above. I'm going to try this out at home before I take it to the field. Now, this is a two-pronged way to look at it. One, I'm getting a lot of playtime with my new piece of gear. I'm trying it out. I'm familiarizing myself, finding out the strengths and weaknesses of each part. But at the same time, I'm preventing myself from getting out into those encounters where I get out there and suddenly I've got a big major problem because a piece of gear is not functioning right, or it broke too easy or whatever. Backpack, stuff like that. I start out with about 10, 15 pounds in it and do a daily walk around the block with it. Then I go up in weight. When I get up to what is going to be my maximum weight I'm ever going to want to carry in this, I'll go like 10 pounds over it just in case. Does it dig horribly into the shoulders? Does the weight belt not want to work? Does the straps want to loosen up and use it? You pull it tight, but it keeps coming loose. Things like that you need to know before you go out. And I've learned this the hard way, guys, where I'd be all excited, I'd get a new piece of gear and I'd rush right out to use it, and it would fail, or it would not whatever. I didn't automatically get rid of the gear. I just learned over time to try it out ahead of time to find out what's its strength, what's its weaknesses, and most importantly, do I really want this? Is it a big improvement over a piece of gear I already got, or not? I wanted a certain knife that was made by a big name maker, not WC knives. This is years ago. And it was one of the survival type knives. And it was just all the rage in all the magazines. And all the cool kids had one. So I ponied up the money and I got it. And that weekend we went on a 4-day camp out with it. And by the end of the camp out, I was ready to sell that, to get rid of it. It rubbed blisters on my hands. It did not function the way it looked. It was very hard to sharpen. The angle was wrong to cut the way I wanted to do things. It did not fit like the wrong size pair of boots. Even though everybody was ranting and raving about it, it didn't fit me. And that's what you've got to do. Find the gear that fits you and try it out at home. Like I've told people, you know, Blackie, I want to learn how to do a ferro rod. Get a roll of toilet paper, get a ferro rod, get in a driveway or someplace where you can take a wad of toilet paper, sit there and practice doing the stroke and igniting the toilet paper. Dry toilet paper ignite pretty easily from a ferro rod. And you're not trying to build a fire, you're just trying to get the technique of how to do it. And you're trying out this ferro rod as well, because maybe you don't have a lot of experience and this is a newer, bigger, thicker, whatever. Try it out. If it's not just blowing a explosion of sparks, you know, your striker, chain strikers, find the combination that works so that when you step out, it's much like acting. When you see that guy up there on that screen pretending to be that hero or whatever, you can bet that behind the scenes he's practiced those lines a lot. That there's somebody that makes sure he's on the mark, in the camera, in the focus, everything. You can bet on that. Well, when you go out in the field and you're looking like I was looking at my great mentor, Francis McGowan, Grouch, and everything was polished, smooth. I mean, when he brought out a piece of gear, it was the least effort, booth, there it was, the fire, the whatever. He would make himself a cup of coffee in his canteen cup. He would set up a tarp. Everything was effortless. There was a whole lot of practice went on. And when I got to asking him about how he became such a good camp cook, he said that he had done it for the Boy Scouts and that he had got the Boy Scout cooking book, and there was like 40 or 50 recipes in it. And he said he cooked it every night for his wife until they cooked every recipe in the book. And he put a little plus or minus beside it so he knew whether they liked it or not. He practiced at home. And so when he came out there to the field and the kids are looking at him, he whipped up this meal as simple as anything because he'd already practiced. And he knew what it was supposed to taste like. And he knew that in the book they say this, but really if you do this, it's better. He'd made his little notes to add a little of this, take that away, substitute this. And he had dialed it in for him. That's what you have to do with your gear. If you learn nothing else from me, take this piece of old woodsman's wisdom. Practice at home with it before you take it to the field. That's the secret to smoothing it. Hope you've enjoyed this video, guys. If you have, please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Until next time, guys, I'm Blackie, wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.